Recording by David Wales. Two Ghost Legends of the Tlingit Native Americans of Alaska by Katharine Judson. Ghost Town, Tlingit, Wrangell. Once Raven came to a large town which was deserted. Everyone seemed to have died. Raven entered the largest house, but he felt someone continually pushing him away. Yet he saw no one there. It was a ghost house. The place was called Ghost Town. Raven then loaded a canoe with provisions from the empty houses and started to paddle away. He did not notice that a long rope was fastened to the stern of the canoe and to a tree on the shore. When Raven had paddled the length of the rope, the canoe was pulled right back to the beach. All the provisions were carried back to the houses, yet Raven could see no one. Then a ghost dropped a large stone on Raven's foot. This made him very lame. The Ghost Land, Tlingit. The young wife of a chief's son died, and the young man was so sorrowful he could not sleep. Early one morning he put on his fine clothes and started off. He walked all day and all night. He went through the woods a long distance, and then to a valley. The trees were very thick, but he could hear voices far away. At last he saw light through the trees, and then came to a wide flat stone on the edge of a lake. Now all the time this young man had been walking in the death trail. He saw houses and people on the other side of the lake. He could see them moving around. So he shouted, "Come over and get me." But they did not seem to hear him. Upon the lake a little canoe was being paddled about by one man, and all the shore was grassy. The chief's son shouted a long while, but no one answered him. At last he whispered to himself, "Why don't they hear me?" At once a person across the lake said, "Someone is shouting." When he whispered, they heard him. The voice said also, "Someone has come up from Dreamland. Go and bring him over." When the chief's son reached the other side of the lake, he saw his wife. He was very happy to see her again. People asked him to sit down. They gave him something to eat, but his wife said, "Don't eat that. If you eat that, you will never go back." So he did not eat it. Then his wife said, "You had better not stay here long. Let us go right away." So they were taken back in the same canoe. It is called Ghost's Canoe, and it is the only one on the lake. They landed at the broad, flat rock where the chief's son had stood calling. It is called Ghost's Rock, and is at the very end of the death trail. Then they started down the trail, through the valley and through the thick woods. The second night they reached the chief's house. The chief's son told his wife to stay outside. He went in and said to his father, "I have brought my wife back." The chief said, "Why don't you bring her in?" The chief laid down a nice mat with fur robes on it for the young wife. The young man went out to get his wife, but when he came in with her, they could see only him. When he came very close, they saw a deep shadow following him. When his wife sat down and they put a marten skin robe around her, it hung about the shadow just as if a person were sitting there. When she ate, they saw only the spoon moving up and down, but not the shadow of her hands. It looked very strange to them. Afterwards the chief's son died, and the ghosts of both of them went back to Ghost Land. End of Two Ghost Legends of the Tlingit Native Americans of Alaska by Katharine Judson.